Hello and welcome back to the Pitchsider Podcast. Coming up this week, we have had Derby week in Manchester and London and a whole host of world-class goals. Joining me this week is the Pitchsider's expert, Mr. Toby Green. How are we?
I'm very well today. How are you?
Yeah, very good. It's been good round of fixtures in the Premier League. Really enjoyed some of the games actually, but we'll get on to that in a minute, I suppose. But let's start off with some sad news from Indonesia. They've had a stadium disaster where at least 125 people have died from crushing when about 3,000 fans entered the pitch and police then tear gassed them, and everyone tried to search the exits, and we ended up with this disaster. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's obviously a tragedy. I don't know how much we can say on this. It's obviously one of the the dark marks upon history. Obviously there's been the Hillsborough disaster in the UK. That was a while ago. But you don't really expect to see kind of things like this happen nowadays. So it's shocking to see over a game that we all love. But obviously our sympathies go out to those affected. Yeah,
definitely. I think this ranks the third worst disaster in football ever. I think it just ranks higher than the Hillsborough disaster, which you just mentioned. But FIFA have asked for coming out of FIFA today. It's announced that they want a full investigation into this, as especially in Europe, police aren't allowed to carry chemical weapons like tear gas, because obviously this does happen. Let's move on. So we've had some kit dramas this week. Do you want to fill us in a little bit about this?
Yeah, there's been two actually that we can mention. Firstly, there's Morocco having a go at Algeria for apparently stealing their cultural, mosaic styles and put them onto a football shirt. So there's a bit of drama in that. I guess, looking at the shirts, they do look quite nice to be fair. But if you look at the designs from Moroccan, architecture, there is a similarity. But they are neighbouring countries, so there's probably an overlap in culture and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, who cares, to be honest? Let them express themselves how they want. Algeria, I don't know. What do you want to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to have what kits they want. I know certain symbols are linked with certain certain countries, especially with England, like we've got the Lions. But there is, let them just express, especially when it's a World Cup. Everyone's going to be wanting to get more. Everyone loves getting behind their team, so don't really need this drama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do rate the kit actually, to be fair. Check it out, see what you think. You can make up your own decisions on this. I would buy it.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
And also the second one is basically, I don't know what you think about this, but Denmark for the World Cup will wear a sort of blacked out kit, and also their home kit will be like fully red, so you can't see the Hummel sponsor, nor can you see the Danish insignia badge. Apparently this is like a way to protest against Qatar to and right the record. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I think it's kind of bullshit kind of marketing from Hummel. If they, want to make a real stance, they wouldn't go to this tournament. So I feel in a way it's sort of the kit provider sort of pandering to an audience and stuff. I don't know. I like the idea, and there definitely needs to be a stand against this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think there's maybe better ways to do it than trying to sell a few more T-shirts.
Yeah, on this, I suppose if Denmark are behind this and Denmark are the leading sort of source for this, it's okay. But if it's the kit sponsor if the kit maker that's trying to do this, it's a bit, because especially when you're hiding up the countries like badge and everything, it's not that fair on the country, when I know they're still going to be iconic and people will still know who's playing, but the badge is quite symbolic for a lot of players, and having by that darkened, it's going to have a bit of effect maybe on the players.
No, to be fair, in this case, I'm pretty sure all the players were behind it, and the Danish FA were maybe not masterminds behind it, but they were certainly involved in the designs. So I think it's a collaborative effort, and they have had some outspoken people, Christian Eriksen and a few others, talking about the World Cup in Qatar. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea, but yeah, there's definitely other ways that they could have done it that may not have seen as sort of money grabby. But yeah, to be fair, the black kit is quite nice. I do like that. So yeah, at least design a nice kit, unlike some other nations.
Moving on to one of your favourite topics, US-backed owners. It's come out this week that the sports group KAM are still interested in buying the Premier League club Everton after about a year ago. They were in discussions with the Everton owner, and then it was said that the club was not in sale. But they apparently have claimed that they're still talking to the owner about buying the club. But I don't know whether this is just them trying to force the hand, especially as they built or build him a new stadium. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, Moshiri is the current owner, the majority owner, and as you said, he's building a new stadium on the docks, 53,000 seater. So that's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. So you feel like this is going to be an investment by the current owner. I know the club's got a lot of debt, like over 300 million or so. So maybe that'd be an incentive to sell. But you think that, investing in a stadium is sort of a long-term ambition from the current owner. So I don't know. It was hard to see if this one does go through, especially after Moshiri said that it was not for sale. But, everything's for sale for the right price, I guess. And the Premier League is one of the most attractive leagues for American owners to buy into nowadays. So maybe we'll see a big offer for Everton. They've spent pretty poorly in the past with a lot of money that they've had. So, throwing money at Everton may not be the solution to their woes at the moment.
Bringing it sort of more to the pitch rather than owners. And we've had 2 managers sackings this week as well. In Middlesbrough, Chris Wilde, which was announced 6 hours ago. And also Wolves have sacked Bruno Lage. What are your thoughts on these 2 sackings and potential maybe replacements?
Yeah, so starting the Premier League when Bruno Lage, he had pretty terrible run. I don't think they won a game in 15 runnings prior to sacking, which is relegation form. So it does make sense to let him go. Yeah, I know. Probably he's been a bit unlucky. They brought in a striker, Klajcic, for about I think it was 15 to 20 million from Stuttgart. Got injured day one basically, so they were left basically having to bring in Costa, who is definitely not like a Premier League level quality striker at the moment, although he did have an opportunity to score and almost scored. But yeah, generally it's not a great sign bringing in a 35-year-old striker. And also they spent a lot of money, over 100 million on new signings this summer, so they have invested quite well. Nunes is quite an interesting midfielder that they brought in from Portugal. So yeah, I think they were looking for better results after this big investment. So yeah, not really a huge surprise that he was let go. In terms of Chris Wilder, also last season he had a fantastic season with Middlesbrough, going quite far into the playoff spots. But this year he's been pretty dire at Middlesbrough, 22nd in the Championship. Nothing seems to be going their way at the moment. He is a top quality manager, though. We saw that in the Premier League with Sheffield United. And last year he did, whilst at Middlesbrough, did have a few offers from other, I think, Premier League clubs, but he decided to stay at the Riverside Stadium. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from now, whether he'll stay in the Championship or hold off for maybe a lower Premier League club if one comes available. He's still, I think, a decent manager, so there'll be a few clubs going off for his signature.
Is Middlesbrough a perfect sort of fit maybe for Sean Dyche to get back into football, or do you reckon he should maybe go to more of a hold out and go to a Premier League team? Maybe Wolves, but I suppose Wolves would probably go with some Portuguese manager.
Yeah, 100%. Wolves will go for a Portuguese manager. But yeah, I think for Dyche it wouldn't be a bad choice career-wise to move to Middlesbrough. You know, what we saw from them last year, they have the potential to probably get promoted. I think there's a few positions they still need to strengthen. But, you know, bringing in a manager who's got experience, not only in the Premier League, but also the Championship, would be a real benefit for them. And he's been out of a job for a while. Maybe he will wait out for a Premier League job, you know, with his CV, all the years he spent in the Premier League. I think maybe some clubs will look for him there, some Premier League clubs. But it will be interesting. I'm sure, no doubt, he's already had offers from Championship clubs that he's probably already turned down. So we'll see. Maybe this is an attractive proposition for him.
Moving on, the final bit of news this week. It's come from various sources. The Pitchsider has reported on this. Nkunku to Chelsea. He's a player you think very highly of. And it's been, I think even Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that he's had a secret medical at Chelsea, and it's came out today that there's also been a pre-contract agreement signed with Chelsea, willing to spend over his release clause to get his signature.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed about this news. I feel like he should have won a Ballon d'Or last year, to be fair. I know Benzema definitely is going to deserve it because, you know, winning the Champions League is no easy feat. But with the goals and assists and the, you know, general play of Nkunku, he had a phenomenal year. Top 3 players in the world, minimum. So he stayed at Leipzig for an additional year. He signed a new contract, which had a release clause around £60 million. Leipzig didn't want to sell at the time, but they said to him, basically, we'll let you go for a reasonable amount, and you basically get the pick of your choosing for which team you move to. I think he will do well in the Premier League. And Chelsea, sort of how they set up with the sort of 3 sort of attacking players up front. Got immense quality, as I said, you know, not just goals but assists as well, and his general link-up play is second to none. I think it'll be exciting to watch him in the Premier League, but obviously I'm disappointed he's going to Chelsea. The Todd Bowley, his little empire of investors, spending big. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it actually goes through. It looks like it will at the moment with all the reports. However, you know, I'm slightly disappointed. Would like to see him at United.
He probably wasn't going to come. Is Chelsea a good second option for you if he wasn't going to go to United, or do you reckon he would have suited more of a? I know Liverpool were in for him, and probably City were in for him as well. City.
Yeah. The thing about Nkunku is that he's incredibly versatile. You can play him as a striker, attacking midfielder, on the wings. You know, his best position is probably second striker or thereabouts. So I feel like, yeah, it will work out well for him at Chelsea in that sort of front 3, which is sort of quite dynamic and moves around a lot with Sterling on the right, maybe Nkunku through the middle. You know, I don't particularly rate Havertz too highly, if I'm honest, but maybe with Nkunku around him, we'll see the best of Havertz.
Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe they'll buy another player, Chelsea. Maybe they'll buy another left winger or something to complement the trio.
I don't know. I really don't know. It depends what Potter really thinks he's gonna get on, but I don't know. I could see it working out with him sort of more of a centre forward with maybe like Brozier ahead of him, and then with like maybe Sterling and Mount surrounding him as well. Could be interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think Brozier will be a starter next year. I'll probably put money on that, to be fair. But yeah, will be interesting. Yeah, but yeah, I can definitely see him having a big impact in the Premier League, or no matter what club he goes to, because of his immense quality. And I'm sure he'll have a good World Cup as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And if he does, it means Chelsea have got him for a bargain.
He could be another Haaland.
well, I don't think he's on that level output of goal scoring, but I guess a profile player, he could definitely reach that.
Should we move on to the Premier League this week? It's been a big week in the Premier League, so this is going to be the only league we are going to cover this week. There's a lot to talk about. But yet to start off, I'll just go through quickly the scores from the weekend, and then start with the London Derby.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with Arsenal-Tottenham. Arsenal won 3-1. Bournemouth-Brentford was 0-0. In the other London Derby, Chelsea beat Palace 2-1. Fulham lost to Newcastle 4-1. Liverpool and Brighton had an exciting 3-3. Everton beat Southampton 2-1. West Ham beat the Wolves 2-0. And on the Sunday, we had the Manchester Derby, which Toby's definitely looking forward to dissecting. City 6, Man United 3. And we also had Leeds versus Villa 0-0. And to kick off tonight, as of recording this, we have Leicester versus Nottingham Forest to kick off in about 10 minutes' time. But yes, start with the London Derby. Arsenal were very dominant against Tottenham. Did you watch this game?
Yes, I did, yeah.
What are your thoughts on how this went?
Yeah, I agree with you. Generally, Arsenal were quite dominant. It wasn't until the red card, though. I think before the red card for Emerson, Tottenham were a lot better, just generally. Whenever you go down to 10 men, it does affect you. And they did have to play half an hour with 10 men. But prior to that, yeah, it was quite I would say more evenly matched game, although Arsenal were the better side. I feel like Xhaka this year has turned into an absolute phenomenal midfielder. I know a lot of Arsenal fans were calling for his head probably last season, but this year he looks phenomenal. He's had a great start to the season. 2 goals, 3 assists in 8 games for a defensive midfielder. But yeah, generally Arsenal looked phenomenal. Great link-up play. We've seen it throughout the whole season so far. How Arteta wants to set them up. A bit similar to City, I guess. Quick movements, quick transitions, and quite high press, particularly in the midfield and even the defence, like pushing the opposition's attackers. So it kind of worked out well for them. And then I don't think Tottenham really responded well to how Arsenal started. We saw 5 substitutions made in the 70th minute or so by Tottenham, which I guess, is a bit of a roll of the dice. But Arsenal looked more in control throughout the whole game. And I think Arteta will be very happy with this derby win.
Yeah, I think these 5 substitutions that were made definitely killed the game off for Tottenham. They went very defensive. I think 3 of the 5 players that came on were defensive players with another defensive midfielder as well. So I think they were, because they took off like Son and Richarlison for these changes. So it was very much, we're going to try and defend and not make this really embarrassing because we are really poor in this game.
Yeah. I don't know. We saw, the first appearance for Oliver Skip, first time in, I don't know how many, like a year probably. But I know he's coming back from injury, but he's definitely not the player that you want to see come on to make an impact. Arsenal look to be pretty good in the Premier League. I think they're still top, aren't they?
Yeah, by 1 point.
I don't think they'll challenge for the Premier League. It's a long way to go in the season. But, if they keep picking up wins like this, they can definitely finish maybe second. Even, third, second. That's pretty much
Yeah. Yeah, I think they will drop they don't have, and if they lose Jesus, they're pretty they're not got a sort of replacement for him or a backup to him. I think they've got Nketiah, but he's not really the backup player you want to go and win you the league. They've got a good starting 11, but the only criticism I would have is of Jesus. There was a couple of times when Saka put the ball across, and bringing in the City game quickly, if we watch Haaland will always try and, I don't know, put some body limb to sort of put it into the back of the net. Whereas there was a couple of times the ball skirted across that 6-yard line, and he just didn't go and attack it. He just sort of like was further back. I don't think he would have reached it in time, but he's not as natural striker, I don't think.
Well, they are very different players. I don't think you can compare the two in the play styles. Obviously, Jesus is more, involved in build up and just setting the whole tempo. He's already got, he's got 8 goal involvements in 8 games. So I think it's hard to criticize him. Maybe he could have got another goal in this game, but he definitely, he scored and they won 3-1. So it's not really a bad result for him. I definitely think he can get probably 20 goals in the Premier League this year. So that's definitely a great return for Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this was one of the more interesting games of this weekend. But there have been some crackers this whole weekend. Where would you like to move to next?
I think the next biggest one, or the most interesting one for me, was the Liverpool-Brighton one, which ended 3-3. Obviously, we know the quality of Brighton at the moment. However, they've gone through a new manager. After Potter left, they brought in Derbies, the Italian manager. And it looks like to play in like a similar system to how Potter played, which obviously is understandable. It's the players know, and they're used to it. So it sort of set up for a quite an interesting game, attack versus attack, particularly how Liverpool have been defended as of late. But in particular, Leandro Trossard, he did get a hat-trick. He was phenomenal in this game. His evolution since joining Brighton has been second to none. He's in the Belgium squad. He has been for a few years, but he's in and around the first team now. And 6 goal involvements in 7 games for him is very good return. And you got to give credit also to Liverpool, and particularly Firmino. A lot of people were saying that he would leave in the window. He didn't leave, and he looks to be a really important player now. He will be for the rest of the year, I can imagine. If he left, I think Liverpool will be in much, much greater trouble with their lack of established players up front. But Firmino is a bit like Jesus in a way. He's not just a goal scorer, but he's also involved in the build-up and the whole progression of the game. So he's going to be invaluable for this year. And he has also got he's got 8 goal involvements in only 6 games in total, which is quite a good return for him. Very interesting game in total. Some interesting goals. Trossard scored some few nice goals. Brighton are in 4th place now. Liverpool down in 9th. It's a really interesting one to think about how far Brighton can go. If their new manager will be able to sort of keep the form that Potter sort of left off. If anything, this is probably a good sign, 3-3, because it's probably easier to strengthen up defensive mistakes rather than allowing your team to score when they aren't scoring. Because in that case, you probably have to bring in a striker rather than, with your defense, you've already got a few defenders you can mold into better players. So, yeah, I think it'll be a positive season for Brighton. I guess last year you would have thought Liverpool would have smashed this game. So, still a long way for them to go this year.
Liverpool, there's still a long way to go. I think there's another 30 games to go or something. So it's still anyone's to win, but yeah, you've got to question Liverpool here. Are they missing Mane? I mean, they've got players that are starting to come back, but are the players that are injured first team players?
No, I think what they're missing is, Van Dijk's ability to defend. Alexander's ability to defend, which has gone downhill massively this year, and his output as well. Yes, Robertson was injured, but Tsimikas has looked as good as him, if not better, this year. And they brought in Milner, who hasn't looked off the pace generally so far this season. I feel like their lack of squad depth might catch up with them this year more than in the past. I guess in the past they've been able to rely on Salah's output and the mad scoring abilities of Mane and Salah, but this year Salah hasn't done too well. He's only got 2 goals. in the Premier League, which for him you'd think he'd be around, the top, one of the top players in goal returns. So yeah, it hasn't been his moment this year. I'm sure it will click later on this season. Maybe they need to go and buy somebody in January, perhaps a midfielder. I know they brought an Otto on loan, but I don't think he started a game. So yeah, a lot of work to go for Chelsea. For Liverpool, a lot of things to do, and a bit of a tricky one for Klopp.
Before we move on further down from the day, I do just want to mention 2 goals. So the Newcastle Fulham game that ended 4-1. I don't know if did you want to talk about this game a bit more, or?
Yeah, I can do. I think I know what the goal you're going to talk about is Miguel Almiron's. I guess you'd call it like a half volley outside of the boot, lobs burnt Eno. That was a beautiful goal. He played really well this game, actually. He's a quality player. Also, we saw Callum Wilson come back to start a game after coming back from injury. He looked quite well. Did quite well. Got the goal. Sean Longstaff actually played after they had an injury in midfield. He got a goal as well. So there's a lot of positives from Newcastle. Eddie Howe's doing a great job there. And I know, it's a reasonably big defeat for Fulham, but in this case, the red card did not help them either. Such early on, like a mistake, 8 minutes in, it's hard to sort of, progress 80 minutes or playing with 10 men. So they didn't really have much of a chance anyway. But I guess credit to Newcastle for capitalising on that.
Yeah. The other goal I wanted to mention was Conor Gallagher's goal, first goal for Chelsea, returned to Selhurst Park. Was just a cracking sort of outside of a box shot curled in the top corner.
Yeah, very nice goal. I did feel it was a bit unlucky for Palace. Thiago Silva definitely should have got sent off for handling the ball when Palace were on the break. Not sure how he got away with that, and VAR did not overturn the decision. It's just crazy. So Palace can feel very hard done by, although, Aubameyang did score a very nice goal. A nice turn and first time shot. And also Gallagher, as you said, nice outside the box shot. But yeah, I feel like if I was a Palace supporter or a Palace player, I'd feel quite a little bit aggrieved about the decision. Chelsea should have been down to 10 men for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even as a Chelsea fan, I do agree. Yeah, he definitely got away with it there. Obviously, it was more lucky for us. I don't feel that hard done by VAR, but I don't know. Yeah, definitely a Palace fan will feel more hard done by. But moving on, we've got the West Ham Wolves game, and Samaka scored a really nice goal from the edge of the box as well.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few nice goals this weekend, actually. Yeah, Skamaka's goal. I think it might be Jared Bowen had a shot and it was deflected and came to Skamaka and he flicked it up. And then first time sort of volleyed it into the top corner. I thought for a while that he might be not exactly be the most potent striker. He might not give him 20 goals a season. But the thing is, Skamaka, even though he's 6'5", you wouldn't expect it. He's got fantastic build-up play. He brings players into the game. I guess his height does help in that matter. He can sort of push off defenders, but also his ability on the ball is quite good actually, and he has the potential to get a few assists this season as well. So I think it was quite a good signing. A lot of money for West Ham, and it has taken Skamaka a while to sort of get into gear, which is expected moving to a new league and everything. But yeah, I can definitely see him turning into quite a decent signing for them. And also Jared Bowen, he did score a nice goal. I don't think he's been that great this season, but yeah, he looked quite good in this game. And I'm pretty sure he will go to the World Cup. Southgate does like him. So yeah, and if he does keep scoring, that will definitely help his cause.
Let's move on to a game where a striker has taken absolutely no time to settle in. Probably your favourite game of the weekend, the Manchester Derby.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, how do I dissect this? Alrighty, well, both teams, City were definitely in form. United were building up momentum in form after winning against Arsenal in the prior game, although it was a month before. But, going into this, it was always going to be a challenge to keep Haaland sort of constrained. I was a little bit surprised with not playing Casemiro. I know he came in for a lot of money. Perhaps he's not necessarily Ten Hag signing. We were going after Frankie de Jong for much of the window, but we ended up with Casemiro. I would have expected him to play in this game in these big moments. He did not. And from the get-go, we looked a little bit. We looked very vulnerable, and we sort of lost any idea of a game plan. And the first half generally was absolutely horrendous. Defense-wise, midfield, we couldn't pick out any of the wingers or attackers. Even when City were attacking, I don't think the front three were contributing enough to the defensive structure of the team. So City sort of ended up running riot. Obviously, I think everybody expected prior to the game that City were going to be comfortable winners, but perhaps not to this margin. Two Hatricks. Haaland had a great game, 3 goals, 2 assists. He's not just a goal scorer, he's also a provider as well. But yeah, United couldn't keep up. The first half was shocking, 4-0 down. We're, I think, one of 7 teams in history to lose 2 games by 4 goals by halftime. Although the second half was better, we did score 3 goals, 2 goals rather. Was it 2 or 3? I can't remember now. But yeah, it was about. Oh yeah, it was 3. Sorry,
3. Yeah.
So we did win the second half 3-2. So if you took that second half performance on its own, we came out with 3 points. But no, yeah, first half was ridiculous. Couldn't keep up with the pace of City, how drilled they were. I feel like, the players obviously had a lot of time to work on this game. And yeah, they just sort of lost confidence from 1 second in. You can see how angry and upset Ten Hag was, and understandably so. I did feel like he was a little bit late in making the substitutions. I think Casemiro should definitely come on earlier. Martial did have an impact, did score 2 goals. Fred did get an assist. But it was all a little bit late on. And, Varane did get injured. He was off the pitch when City did score from the corner. And then I think for the following goal, he was sort of slightly at fault. Couldn't keep up with the pace because he was injured, and he did come off eventually. But that's not to discredit City at all. They're a machine at the moment. Phil Foden's had a fantastic game. I think he'll definitely be a starter for England. Maybe even Grealish as well now because he had a great game too, buying fouls and everything. It's hard to see City not winning the league. I think the scoreline also sort of maybe doesn't show the full story. 6-3 doesn't sound as bad as losing 6-1, which we were about to, near to the end until the 80th minute or so. We've got a history of losing 6-1 to City, or I say history. There's one famous game where we lost 6-1 to City, so it would have been a worse scoreline than 6-3.
I think what saved you was where they made the 5 substitutions, brought on some players that don't really play that much. Mm-hmm. And I think at least one of their goals they did just switch off. So I agree. I think if it was more they were trying to go and win the game like they were in the first half, I don't think you would have scored as many as you did. But I think they kind of just relaxed. Yeah,
it could have been more. I mean, there's very few positives for United. Anthony did score a very nice goal, so there's that outside the box of a long shot. And Malacia, I thought, although he did get hooked for Luke Shaw, I did think he had a quite decent game. You can see his impact. He almost cleared Haaland's header off the line. But yeah, as I said, City are a machine. When you got such an output from all their players, they didn't even play a defensive midfielder this game, and they didn't really phase them at all. With the quality of passing, they could just get around any player. Irresistible to press. They no doubt have won the league. The question that, I'm saying this like 8 games in, but I think we all know that with the quality they've got on the starting 11 and on their bench. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how well they can do in Europe. If they can transfer this form into Europe, into the Champions League, onto I guess some would argue the biggest stage, then I guess they've got a real chance to be contenders to win the tournament. But yeah, they look really, really good.
Yeah, and just to focus on Haaland, as he always is doing, he is still smashing records. So he smashed, I think it was at least 2 in this game. So he smashed the record for most goals in the first 10 games. He's got 2 to spare. He's already scored 14. He's got 2 more games to go. He's beaten a record that was set by Mickey Quinn, Cisse, and Diego Costa of 11 in their first 10. And he's also the first player to score 3 hat-tricks consistently at home games in the Premier League. He is also the first player to score in his first 4 away games in the Premier League.
Yeah, there's one that amazes me as well, is that he's the fastest player to score 3 hat-tricks in the league in 8 games. And the next quickest is Owen, who took 48 games. So 40 more games. And then after that, obviously, it goes higher and higher in terms of games this man taken to get those hat-tricks. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, such an imposing striker. But I guess this is one of the first times we've seen him actually be able to, well, not be able to, but actually seen him assist and be a bit more involved in link-up play, which would be very useful in games against, better and well-drilled teams. Against the likes of, I guess, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, perhaps. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I feel like United will... I guess the 3 goals sort of, in a way, kept some sort of momentum for them. So, it's not the end of the world. We're playing in Europe this week, against a Cypriot side, Omnia. So that should be an easier game. I imagine Martial will start off this decent return in this game. But yeah, I guess for the club, they just need to keep some sort of form going. City have no issue with that, of course.
No, especially with Haaland, and he's still going to probably break records, probably going to break the Premier League record for goals, and maybe even get a record of scoring in every single game, which was Harry Kane was the closest to that. But we will see, and we'll be definitely following on this podcast.
But next week we'll have Champions League coming up. It starts tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Also Europa League and Europa League Conference, so we'll have a roundup of that, plus Premier League games and leagues from around Europe.
Last thing to do before we sign off is the Pitchsider Player of the Week.
Well, I guess it's sort of fitting we just talked about City, because I have to go for a City player. Yeah, it is a toss-up between 2, Foden or Haaland. Although Haaland did get 2 assists, Foden's all-round play was absolutely impeccable. I'll give them both. I'll give them a joint one, because they both deserve credit. A phenomenal game for both of them.
I think a player that I would probably throw a hat in for the ring is probably Trossard as well, getting these 3 goals, hat-trick.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good shout as well. Yeah, good shout.
I think he had a really good weekend, and I think he's very overshadowed. He's very overshadowed by this Haaland and Phil Foden. I think with Haaland, he's done it like 3 weekends in a row, whereas Trossard had an amazing weekend this weekend, especially for his quality against the quality he was playing against. And that wraps up this week's podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining me, Toby.
Thank you.
And have a good week, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
For all the latest news, transfers, and football articles, check out thepitchsider.com. It's the place to be. Contact us on our socials. Instagram and Twitter is @thepitchsider, or via email is thepitchsider@hotmail.com.